Welcome back to Be Inspired from Life. Most of our frustration doesn't come from life being hard. It comes from us trying to control what was never ours to control in the first place. We wake up every day carrying invisible weights, other people's opinions, their moods, their decisions, the outcomes we hope will go our way. And when they don't, we feel offended, disrespected, angry. But that anger isn't proof of strength. It's proof that we handed our power away. Stoicism teaches something simple, but it's not easy. Know the difference between what's yours and what's not. Your thoughts are yours. Your choices are yours. Your effort, your values, your integrity, those belong to you. But the way people treat you, not yours. The results of your hard work, not fully yours. The way the world responds to your honesty, your kindness, your discipline, that's out of your hands. And the moment you stop fighting that truth, something shifts inside you. See, when you try to control what you don't own, you become emotionally dependent. Dependent on praise to feel confident. Dependent on fairness to feel calm. Dependent on respect from others to feel worthy. That's a fragile way to live. Because now your peace is rented out to anyone who feels like disturbing it. And the Stoic says, no more. My peace is not up for negotiation. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care wisely. You show up. You give your best. You speak with intention. And then you let go. You let go of the applause. You let go of the outcome. You let go of needing the world to agree with you before you feel at ease with yourself. That's not indifference. That's freedom. Think about how much energy we waste being upset about things we couldn't change even if we tried. Traffic, delays, rejection, disrespect, people acting from their own pain, their own fears, their own limitations. When you understand that, you stop taking everything personally. You realize most behavior isn't about you. It's about them. And once you stop internalizing what doesn't belong to you, your mind gets lighter, your reactions slow down, your presence becomes calm and grounded. Real emotional strength is not about forcing the world to behave. It's about deciding who you will be regardless of how the world behaves. When you focus only on what's in your control, you become unbothered, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. You stop chasing peace in external conditions and start building it from the inside out. And here's the truth that changes everything. The moment you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you finally take full control of yourself, and that's where real power lives. Now let's talk about emotions, because this is where most people lose the battle without even realizing it. The moment something goes wrong, the emotion shows up fast. Anger, fear, embarrassment, that heat in the chest, that tightening in the jaw, that urge to react right now. And we've been taught that those feelings are truth, that if we feel disrespected, then we were disrespected. If we feel angry, then someone deserves that anger. But Stoicism steps in and says, slow down, feel the ocean, but don't crown it king. Emotions are not enemies. They're messengers. They show up to tell you something is happening, not to tell you what to do next. The problem is, most of us let the message grab the steering wheel. We speak when we should pause. We react when we should observe. And later, when the dust settles, we say, that wasn't really me, but it was you, just untrained. There's hour in the pause, that small space between what happens to you and how you respond. In that space, you get to decide who you are, not the version of you fueled by impulse, but the version of you guided by intention. The Stoic understands that feelings arrive uninvited, but actions are always a choice. You can feel anger without becoming angry. You can feel fear without retreating. You can feel insulted without surrendering your dignity. Most emotional damage doesn't come from the feeling. It comes from the story we tell ourselves about the feeling. They disrespected me. I'm not enough. This always happens to me. Those stories turn a moment into a mindset. But when you challenge the story, the emotion loses its grip. You begin to see clearly. You begin to respond, not react. And that, when emotional strength starts to show. This kind of mastery doesn't make you cold. It makes you grounded. You become someone who can walk into chaos without absorbing it. Someone who can hear criticism without collapsing or exploding. Someone who doesn't need to raise their voice to prove they're powerful. That calm? That's not weakness, that's discipline at work. And here's the shift that changes everything. When you stop letting emotions command your behavior, they stop controlling your life. You still feel deeply, but you move deliberately. You become unbothered not because you feel less, but because you understand more. Because in the end, the strongest person in the room isn't the one who feels nothing. It's the one who feels everything and still chooses wisely. Calm doesn't arrive by accident. It's not something you're born with, and it's not something life hands you when things finally slow down. Calm is built, quietly, daily, when nobody's watching. And that's the part most people miss. They want peace after the storm, but they never trained before the storm showed up. Inner discipline is what separates the unbothered from the overwhelmed. It's the ability to govern yourself when there's no applause and no pressure forcing your hand. It's choosing restraint when ego wants reaction, choosing reflection when instinct wants speed. Every time you pause, every time you think before you speak, every time you act according to your values instead of your mood, you're strengthening something inside you. You're building a mind that doesn't panic when life gets loud. Most people let the outside world shape their inner world. Traffic dictates their mood. A comment ruins their day. A delay steals their patience. But the Stoic flips that equation. They train the inside so the outside loses its power. Through reflection, they examine their day. Through self-restraint, they refuse to be pulled into every provocation. Through intentional thinking, they ask, is this my peace? And most of the time, the answer is no. This kind of discipline doesn't make you rigid, it makes you free. Free from impulsive reactions, free from emotional exhaustion, free from needing constant validation to feel steady. When you train your mind, chaos becomes background noise. You still hear it, but it no longer controls the rhythm of your life. And understand this, discipline isn't about perfection. You will slip, you will react sometimes. You will feel emotions rise before you catch them. That's human. But progress lives in awareness. Each moment you notice yourself before you explode is a victory. Each moment you choose calm over chaos is a step forward. Over time, those moments stack up, and what once felt impossible becomes natural. When the pressure hits, and it will, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall back on your training. That's why Stoics prepare in advance. They rehearse adversity in their minds. They strengthen themselves in calm moments, so they're not fragile in difficult ones. This is how outer calm is created, not by controlling the world, but by mastering yourself. And when your inner world is disciplined, the outer world can do its worst and still fail to shake you. Because real calm isn't found in silence, it's forged in control. There comes a moment in life when you realize not every invitation deserves your attendance. Not every comment deserves your reply. Not every challenge deserves your energy. And that realization doesn't come from weakness, it comes from wisdom. Because the more you grow, the more selective you become with your time, your words, and your emotions. That's Stoic strength at work. Silence is often misunderstood. People think if you don't respond, you've lost. If you don't defend yourself, you're weak. If you don't explain, you've surrendered. But the truth is, silence is not absence. It's control. It's knowing who you are so deeply that you don't feel the need to audition or approval. It's understanding that your value doesn't increase because someone recognizes it, and it doesn't decrease because someone refuses to. Detachment is not about cutting yourself off from life. It's about cutting off unnecessary suffering. It's realizing that other people's behavior is a reflection of their inner world, not a verdict on your worth. When someone insults you, misunderstands you, or tries to provoke you, you always have a choice. You can step into the chaos, or you can step back and keep your balance. The Stoic chooses balance. Ego wants the last word. Ego wants to be right. Ego wants to be seen winning. But ego is expensive. It costs you peace. Self-respect, on the other hand, is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't argue with fools or wrestle with every opinion. It knows when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. And that restraint? That's power. As you mature, you start to see that most battles are distractions dressed up as opportunities, arguments that lead nowhere, conflicts that drain more than they build, people who want reactions, not resolutions. When you refuse to engage, you're not avoiding conflict, you're choosing yourself. You, re-saying, my energy is valuable, and I decide where it goes. This doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you don't internalize it. You don't let it live rent-free in your mind. You set boundaries, not with anger, but with clarity. And sometimes the strongest boundary is distance. Sometimes the strongest response is calm. Sometimes the strongest message is walking away without explaining yourself. When you stop reacting to everything, people notice. Not because you're loud, but because you're unshakable. Your presence changes. Your words carry more weight because you don't waste them. You move differently because you're no longer driven by impulse or pride. You're guided by self-respect. And that's the final lesson of being unbothered. When you no longer need to prove anything to anyone, you become impossible to provoke, and that is real strength. Thank you so much for watching. If this video inspired you, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to be inspired from life for more motivational content. And remember, no matter where you are in life, you have the power to change your fate. See you in the next video.